There we go. Hello, this is Ian Noel Camilotes for Centertainment Media, and this is ChatterBox. Hello again, this is Ian Noel Camilotes for Centertainment Media, and I'm here today with Jonathon Santiago, one of the board members of Anime Magic, so welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to sit and interview. It's nice to see you again, Ian. We do this every year. It's a special dance we do.
Definitely. Well, for our viewers, could you explain again what your actual title is and your role in the convention?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the director of technology for Anime Magic, and I have been since we founded the event. I basically program everything that is interactive programming. I do the video gaming, the arcade gaming. I programmed Clutch Competitive Gaming Classic, which was our fighting game series and esports tournament. I do the audio-video side with my brother, who's the audio guy that we contract out. So all the audio in the panel rooms, all the audio on the side stage, stage K. So there's a lot of different things that I bring to the event and kind of curate and build. I could probably list 6 or 7 other things, but I don't want to bore you. So I do a lot of that stuff here at the hotel.
Yeah, that's a lot of work to do because you're the one that a lot of people will see running around because you're trying to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I just arguably left out the biggest part that I work on, which is so important. I can't believe I didn't say, but I'm the person in charge of the volunteer program here. So I have volunteer managers that coordinate for me, and then we curate the program and get everybody scheduled. And when you see me dashing across the hotel like a streak, it's because I'm trying to catch up with the volunteers and make sure they're all where they should be, and my managers are on top of that too, and making sure everyone has what they need, like you said. So yeah, I do a lot. My poor feet do a lot when they're here.
Well, one of the interesting things, because now we're year 4 now of Anime Magic, what got you to be a part of creating Anime Magic? What was the thing that drew you to creating a convention?
A lot of it is I have a background in working in entertainment and production, and a lifetime ago, my brother and I were touring musicians, and while I still perform and make music with my brother, it's not my full-time job. So I have a ton of stage production and touring and traveling experience there, and then I was a convention goer, like anybody else, just an attendee and liked to go to the shows and would always kind of take note of the things that didn't work the way that you want them to, or like if I were in charge of one of these things, this is what I would do different. Everybody always thinks it at these shows. And then, being in the bands that I've played with my brother, we've also had the privilege of being guests at conventions, right? So we've been able to kind of have the 3 experiences with what engaging in a convention is: the fun part as an attendee, the production part, and then the guest part. So I've worn all those hats in this world. And so at one point, our convention president, Richard, who was in the bands that I was playing in, that's how we're friends, that's how we know one another, would come and tell me, it was 2017, he came to me a couple years before the first event and said, I have this idea that I've been kind of sitting on top of for a while. I want to create this thing. And he showed me the first logo, and he showed me kind of pitched the idea, because we had worked at conventions as guests so many times that he just wanted to kind of transcend that and go into making something different and new, and something that we felt was a little better than maybe what was out there. And he said, so what do you think? Do you want to do this with me? And I went, absolutely not. This is exhausting. And we laughed about it. And then I eventually thought about it and said, I think we can make it better. We have all this knowledge and experience about what doesn't work at a show from every single perspective, which is unique. And we thought we could take that and turn it into something cool. So that's what kind of got me into it. Is Richard is my dear friend, and I love and respect him, and we work so wonderfully together. And the concept was just too hard to pass up, because who doesn't want a better con?
Gotcha. So you were already friends. It wasn't just connecting with somebody. You guys were already close.
Yeah, no. Richard and I performed in the band that we played in together, Vias for Villains, and I still perform in the band with my brother in Vias for Villains. And Richard has popped in and out a couple times over the years, so we're still on good terms on that front. But yeah, we had known each other and performed on stage together and been guests at cons together and attendees at cons together for years prior to starting Anime Magic. And it was really Richard and Sarah that came up with the concept and then approached me and said, we feel like you're the right person to kind of help us flesh this out. And I was the first person that was added to the board of directors for Anime Magic right out of the gate before it was even really more than a logo and an idea.
That's a strong vote of confidence, especially because you've been running this thing since the beginning too, with the role you've had.
Yeah, and they got lucky that I didn't mess it up.
Well, speaking of with the role you have, and it's already 4 years, what have been some of the more difficult things that you've had? Because again, every convention has growing pains and everything, but for you and your role, what's been one of the more difficult things?
There's a couple things, and I'll try to keep it brief, but one of those things is every time you move to a new event space, you have to try to guesstimate what you're going to build for the spaces that they're in, which is why sometimes if you all as attendees are watching this interview, sometimes you go into a room and go, who the hell did this? Like, whose idea was this? And the idea seems great on paper, but doesn't always translate when you get there because you find out there's a technical limitation or something that's not anticipated because of the design of the hotel or the space that you have to work around. That's one of the really hard things about doing this job is trying to find that balance between plotting what you want on paper and executing it in person because there are sometimes variables you can't account for till you get there. The second thing is moving hotels. We've moved hotels a lot, and most cons find a hotel and they sit there and park on it. Moving hotels is hard for that reason. You have to relearn all your spaces. The longer you stay in a hotel, the more you know the space, the easier it is to build and change things positively next year. But I think one of the hardest things, I can't speak for the other directors, but one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with was we moved to this event space last year unexpectedly. We were supposed to have a 2-year agreement with a previous hotel, and it didn't work out. So we had kind of built and planned for a couple of years. The very sudden shift, an unexpected shift in the middle of COVID, made it really difficult because we weren't planning to program for the spaces here last year. So we had to pivot really hard and kind of learn to adjust everything we had anticipated. We had already spec'd and built rooms for the previous hotel for the second year we were going to be there because we had the luxury of knowing we were going to be there for 2 years. So we had to take all our specs and all our plans and everything and start from scratch really late in the game. And we still pulled it out and had a great event. But that's the kind of stuff that makes the job really hard, fun, challenging, and really gratifying when you stick the landing on something like that you're like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of sketchy.
You guys had a tough year. I mean, it was a tough year.
It was.
A lot of events happening also.
Yeah.
Same year too.
Yeah, which there, as a kind of anecdote to that, a lot of people, when we announced that we were going to be at the convention center here last year at the same time as C2E2 and the same time as Gen Con and the same time as Evo, even though it was, it's farther away. And there's just flashback weekend was right here in this very hotel, and we shared space with them. The general response was like, have you lost your mind? And we were just like, we didn't have a choice, and would have chosen dates that were not on top of those things if we had had the option, but we didn't. And there's a longer story there that I'll spare you when we're doing some more media later. But if you guys enjoyed that show last year, it was an insane experience for us. It was very hard to program that show under the circumstances, but we're very proud of it.
No, it went pretty fairly well this year.
Oh yeah,
but given everything that had happened.
Yeah.
So, as the Anime Magic grows, there's been a lot of new things you guys have added. Try to add, incorporate. What are some of the things that you're hoping to do in the future? Not necessarily. I know you probably can't talk about things that are going to happen, but some things that you think that we might want to try that a few years down the road or something like that.
I've got a good answer for that without being too specific and spoiling things that we're already working on for next year and things we're trying to plot and plan. What I can tell you is a lot of our peers put on these really great shows in the Midwest and in the Chicagoland region, but this is a personal opinion. One of the things that I think that they do wrong, one of the mistakes I think that they make is not committing to trying new things, right? Because it's very easy to it takes a lot of work to structure even the most basic programming here at these events. And then the next year, because the backbone is already there, because the structure is already there, it's very easy to just rely on that structure to take a little bit of the weight off your back when you're building. But sometimes we build programming that's just okay, right? I've built a couple things for the event that I thought would be great, again, on paper, but in practice, the attendance isn't great, or the cost versus the attendance doesn't justify the event, and I've got to think about that for the future. And I put a lot of effort into it, and I'll give you a great example. This year, we didn't feature a talent show, a traditional talent show, which we've done every year prior. And as the person who curates that, I had to make a call after last year to go, you know what? The people that come to this event every year seem to enjoy it, but it's a relatively low and very niche number of people versus the cost to put it on, right? So I decided to scrap that and do a different type of talent show this year, and did the Anime Magic Actors Club, which was a complete prototype and a test, and very raw, and kind of a throwing things at the wall to see what will stick kind of a thing. But that, to me, is what a lot of programmers for these events should be doing, is trying new things. I think the reason a lot of people don't is because that foundation I was talking about, the backbone of it, you're back to square one. And it does put a little more weight on your back to build programming for a convention, because you start from square one on something you could have just plugged in, that was already existing. And so, but it's a lot of effort for me and a lot of effort for us to try new things. But the byproduct is that program I did on Friday that replaced the talent show. There were some people who were sad that I didn't do the talent show, but the turnout was much better for this new program and gave me an indication that I'm going in the right direction. So, without spoiling any of the programming for next year, what I can tell you is that Anime Magic is always going to make an effort to not just rely on what is there just because it's there. We're always going to try to build better programming or make something new for you all at our expense, so that the show is never stale. Even if what we build doesn't always turn out great, I don't think anybody will ever be able to accuse us of just doing the same damn thing every year. You know what I mean? Yeah. So next year, we've been there are programs we're trying to launch that we've been working on for the last 2 years. For next year, there are things we're doing some big things in the next probably 2 years that are way beyond anything we've done for the event up to this point. So that's all I'll say about it.
Another thing that is an important aspect for conventions is guests. Now, I don't know if it's in your realm where you deal with it, but how do you guys select the guests? Because sometimes some guests return, some are only just one time. How do you guys come about selecting those guests?
We try to be really thoughtful and methodical about it. We there's a lot of factors that we use to determine who we'd like to come out. A lot of it is we try to pay attention to who the anime community wants to see at a show. I mean, that's the most obvious, like low-hanging fruit, right? Is who's popular, what shows are popular, what crossover is there to have voiceover artists that have worked on a single show together, so that it's more of an event for the attendees. And a lot of times, voiceover artists in the industry, they know each other, or at least they're acquainted. And sometimes these events sometimes turn into their yearly or bi-yearly get together for the people they've worked with on these productions, or at least know in passing. And so we try to make sure that the attendees are having guests that they're excited to meet and see, and whose work they really appreciate. We also want to make sure that the voiceover artists that we select, I think a lot of people think just about the attendee side of it. We're thinking about the voiceover artists, they're our guests, and we're trying to think about it from the perspective of, if we line up folks that are, like I said, 2 or 3 people on the same show, it's probably going to make their event weekend better, because they're gonna meet fans, they're gonna make new fans, they're gonna be able to sell their wares, and hopefully it's a successful weekend for them. So that's kind of the two-pronged approach to it. And sometimes, because we're anime fans and we enjoy watching movies and shows as well, sometimes we kind of geek out a little bit and pick people that we just really like their work, and hope that they'll be kindly enough to come and participate in our humble little show. So it's there's a multifaceted approach to it. It's not as simple as just who's popular. We feel like it should go beyond that. If you're a little more thoughtful about it, then hopefully everybody has a great experience. Us as the directors, with our attendees and our guests, and it's kind of a triangular thing, and then hopefully the attendees and the guests have a good experience, and then with us. So there's a little bit of a Venn diagram in there somewhere, I think, in our minds. So that's how we go about trying to make our selections.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, one last thing then before we close here. Do you have anything you want to say to the audience about your feelings for this year, and then what to expect generally for next year?
Oh, absolutely. This year was we always do our best to try and calculate what we think our attendance is going to be, and curate everything to make sure it's great for you all as attendees, and hopefully our voiceover artist guests are happy with the way that they were treated, and everything goes smoothly. This was easily, without even being able to come close to look at how things have shaken up, it was easily our most successful year by a margin. You guys made it a smash success for us, and I think the event we've been trying to build since year one culminated for us this weekend. We're planning to build more. We're planning to build better, bigger, and beyond. So hopefully you all will continue to support us and keep coming out. As long as you're coming to the show, we're going to wear our legs down into little nubs running around this convention center and hotel to make sure it's a great show for you. So if you enjoyed this show this year, please come next year. We're going to be making announcements today actually about next year and its theme. So thank you guys for supporting us and being so positive about our event and creating such a great community atmosphere. So thank you.
Well, thank you again, Jonathan.
No, thank you.
Everybody here at Anime Magic for making all the guests and the attendees feel welcome and be able to have a weekend and enjoy yourselves. So
not only is it our job, but we're glad to do it. Thanks for the interview. I appreciate your time, Ian.
Thank you. Well, this is Ian Camilotes for Centertainment Media, and thank you for listening.